fast business growth, return on investment, exit a company, and then retire for life, don't worry about building your brand.
The business is you and you are the brand.
The people that I look up to, the Richard Bransons, the people building the billion-dollar companies, is that they build first, they build the company first.
Is that going to be the fastest path to you, number one, building a company, and number two, growing your revenue? The short answer is no.
Welcome to the Takeover with Tim and Cindy, where we show you how to dominate every area of life and business. Let's get winning.
Welcome back to the Takeover with Tim and Cindy. Question for you. Do you need a personal brand to start and grow a business? In today's episode, we're going to dissect all things personal branding. How does it tie into the success and failure of your business? Should you focus your time, effort, energy, attention on building a brand? Should you detach your personal brand from your company brand? So many questions, so many things that we get to unpack in this episode. So with that said, Tim, let's get straight to it.
Sure. What do you want to know?
What is a personal brand and how does it tie into building a company?
Yeah, so I think there's a lot of different dynamics to think about when it comes to like what a personal brand is, right? So there's kind of three main categories to think about when you're wanting to build a business and considering how to leverage your personal name, your brand. There's the full-on Joe's Auto Repair.com. You know, you are the company. And that's going to be the one extreme where literally you are Joe. Mm-hmm. And it is your auto shop. And when people coming to Joe's Auto Shop, they want to see who? Joe, right? Mm-hmm. So there's that extreme. Then there is kind of the middle where you have people that have really big brands like an Elon Musk or a Dwayne Johnson. Mm-hmm. These folks, they have really big brands and platforms, they are a big and brand and platform themselves. Yeah. And then they have multiple companies or things that they now get to endorse. Mm-hmm. Or if they invest in a company, they get to endorse those companies. And then that would be kind of in the middle where you have a personal brand that can endorse companies you own or that you're investing in. And then the other extreme would just be like a Coca-Cola. Mm-hmm. Like no one's thinking about who's the brand, who's the person behind Coca-Cola.
Yeah, Coca-Cola, it stands alone.
It stands alone. And, you know, I had a company, my first company I started was KC Detailing. You can look up, if you Google Kansas City Auto Detailing, that company is still alive and well. It's still the number one detailing shop in Kansas City. When I built that company, I was intentional about not having it be called Tim's Detailing, right? Because I wanted to be able to sell it. I wanted it to be detached from who I was personally. And so I built that company in a way that I could sell it. And if you look, if you were to see the customer base, we had 20, 30 calls coming in a day because our marketing was so good from SEO, as we talked about in other episodes. And so when I decided to leave that business, start a marketing company, I was able to sell that company and the customers didn't know the difference, right? Yeah. Same logo, same brand, same website, new owner. And if you go look it up, that business is still thriving now. I started that thing in 2008. Just to give some context, that business is still alive and thriving. That's a really cool building a company that's not associated with your brand. It doesn't require you're not required to be around for it. Yeah, so that was something I experienced. But also, I have a brand now, running ads, running YouTube, podcast, different stuff like that, where now people are starting to really associate with Tim Dodd or Cindy Makita, right? Mm-hmm. Like those are personal brands, but we're not running a company directly underneath our brands.
Yeah. I love the three different categories that you gave there. One, where it's the business is you and you are the brand, right? The one extreme. The middle, where it's like you can build your own personal brand. You're kind of building that up. It's still a little bit separate from the different companies that you have. Maybe you kind of, I'd say in this case, it's you and I, right? So Cindy Makita, Tim Dodd, we run Pima. Pima can stand alone without us, but we do endorse it because it's our company. And then the other extreme, where it's like you don't even know who the faces are behind the brand. The company brand stands on its own. What are the pros and cons, would you say, of the two extremes. So on the one hand, building a business that is you are the brand. And then the other extreme, whereas there is no face behind the brand, the company or the brand itself stands on its own.
Let me say this to be very, very clear. To build like a big, massive brand is very difficult to do. And the benefits are not as great as you think they may be. But they can be greater than you think they could be as well.
Okay.
So let me explain this. A lot of it's going to be dependent on what your goal is. So like if we're looking at the like kind of pros and cons, if your goal is long term to build a brand that can endorse multiple of your companies and ventures, building your personal brand is a really good idea because it allows you to, leverage it to build your current company now, but also know when you go sell that company or do something with that company, you can now keep your brand building and you can put that momentum into a different company. However, if you are at a place in your business where you need money, you need to grow this thing, you need to grow it fast, you don't need a brand to do that.
Yeah.
What I know for a fact is there are companies, especially being in the outbound space, you would be blown away at how many companies are doing $30 million a year, $100 million a year you've never heard of, and you may never hear about them because they're under the radar. They're doing outbound. They're building massive companies very quick. They're exiting companies, but the owner has like 500 Instagram followers. Yeah. Maybe. And they're not, they don't have a brand. So if you're trying to get really quick revenue and grow, you don't need to build a brand. And I would actually suggest not to put time and energy there. Right. So the building your brand takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of time.
We're talking about a personal brand.
A personal brand.
Correct.
Yes. Personal brand. Now, if your goal is to like really long term and you have the time, the money, the energy to invest into building this and know an automated AI software that pumps out 800 pieces of content a month is not going to give quality content that's going to build a real brand, like it's going to take like real just grinding for years to build a personal brand. That's the reality of it. However, the benefit of a personal brand is like once you got it built, and if your followers love you, then anything you like, think about like a Joe Rogan, like he wants to invest in a company. He literally he invests in the company, then he promotes the company on his show. Yeah. That company blows up. Same with Elon Musk. He wants to, not going to get into any of the specific companies, but any companies he wants to invest in or endorse, like they blow up. So it is very powerful. I mean, I think at the end of the day, the plus and minuses are really going to be like fast business growth, return on investment, exit a company, and then retire for life. Don't worry about building your brand. If you're looking to really do multiple ventures throughout your, and you have a long vision for your entrepreneurial journey, which I know you and I do, then it's something worth investing in, but it is going to take a long, long time and a long journey to do it.
Absolutely.
Once you do it, you're now going to have a warm audience that'll buy pretty much anything you sell. So just make sure you sell good stuff.
I want to make sure that the listeners are very clear on the fact that we're talking about a personal brand here and not a company brand. Your company brand, of course, has to be good. You should have positive testimonials and reviews, and that should be a constant thing that you're building. When people research Pima.io, our company, that there's good things that they see online about it, that we've established our brand behind that. What we're talking about specifically, though, is pros and cons of building a personal brand and how that relates to growing a business. I just don't want anybody to get confused in that sense. And so we spoke a lot about some of the pros and cons around building a personal brand. How does that actually attach to your company brand, if you should do it or not? One of the things I want to highlight that you mentioned is knowing your goal. What is the goal for building a company? Do you want it specifically to tie to you and building your personal brand, or do you have a bigger goal to one day exit? Because that's going to determine how much you pour into building a brand versus actually focusing on your company. So Tim, in this day and age, we see a lot of influencers, right? A lot of people that focus on building a brand on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, all of that, YouTube, because it is like the influencer culture that we're in today, right? The more followers you have, the more people will like, buy, trust, etc. What are your thoughts around? Do you feel like it's necessary to build a brand today with how social media culture is? And how does that tie to the growth and even the success of your business?
So again, it depends on your goals, right? Like number one thing that all high achievers do is they set, what do I want? What do I want my business to look like? What do I want my health to look like? What do I want my marriage to look like? You set the goal. What is the goal? And then you go, what is the fastest, most effective, efficient route to get there? So number one, you got to set that out. Like, what's the goal? So if you do decide to build the brand, it's got to be what's the goal? Because what can happen is you can get trapped in the addiction of social media.
That's good.
Right? Like the likes, the comments, the follow. And now you're building an audience. Like, I'll tell you right now, there's some influencers I guarantee that you follow that you think are making a lot more money than they are. Because they're good at building like social media and they're addicted to that. But they actually don't know how to run a company very well on the back end. Whereas there is people you've never heard of in your life, Joe Bob, who's got like 30 Instagram followers, and he just sold his company for $30 million or $300 million. Guy I met, you would never know his name unless you knew in the entrepreneurial circles. The guy sold his company $300 million. Like, so it depends on what your goal is. But then there is people that are good with business and good at building personal brands. And any of those people will tell you building their personal brand was the best investment they made. But all of them, literally not one of the influencers that I look up to ever built their personal brand first.
They built companies first. They built businesses.
Yes.
They had success there. Then they went and built.
Like, I want you to go through an index in your head right now of the entrepreneurs that you look up to the most. Right? You probably have some pictures in your head. If you're listening right now, I'm talking about like not flashy entrepreneurs, but I'm talking people that have legit built insane companies. And all of them had built success first, brand second.
That's good.
Personal brand second. And they built that because now they have something that they can talk about. However, so I suggest, or the way that I've seen modeled, right? I can't give you the plan on how to do this, but what I can tell you is what I've seen the people that I look up to, the Richard Bransons, the people building the $1 billion companies, is that they build first, they build the company first, and then they build the personal brand off of that success, that momentum, and then that personal brand builds more success, and then they compound upon each other. They work with each other. So if you're just trying to get likes and influence, and you want to ride this social media thing out until the meta world takes over, which social media isn't here forever. Like, let's just be real. But there'll be the next thing, and you got to build on the next thing. Again, it just comes down to what's your goal. If your goal is to build a certain life for you, your family, inheritance for your kids, you don't need to build a social media brand. And I would in fact build the success first. And then with the time, the money, the energy that you now have, because you have a successful company that runs and grows without you, now build a personal brand to leverage all of your activities. Yeah.
We speak to a lot of, I love what you said there. We speak to a lot of entrepreneurs that will come to us and say like, I purchased this course and they told me if I just, keep posting on social media and I'm consistent, I'll just get clients. The clients are going to come to me. I just need to be consistent. I need to post content. I need to build my brand. And it's like, that's cool and all, but is that going to be the fastest path to you, number one, building a company, and number two, growing your revenue? The short answer is no. It's not the fastest path, because in building a brand, one, it takes consistency, right? And to grow an audience, people have to know you. They have to trust you. They have to know that you can deliver value time after time, week after week, month over month. So it takes time, effort, and energy. It takes consistency to build authority. And it's a long-term game, right? If I'm going to start building a brand today, I'm not going to get clients tomorrow. I have to show up consistently. My content has to be valuable. People have to recognize me, know me, trust me. And that it is a longer cycle until you actually start building momentum with the personal brand, where you have people, say, purchasing your courses or purchasing your products, things like that. So it's knowing that building a personal brand is a long-term game. It's going to take effort and consistency, showing up consistently for your audience. And then as you build that trust, then you'll actually have the kind of brand where people will purchase whatever it is that you're selling. So if you want immediate revenue, immediate clients, and your goal is to build a business that thrives, we wouldn't say like building a personal brand is that initial go-to. So it goes back to knowing what your goal is.
And even I was talking to one of our buddies, you know who he is here in Miami. He's got a successful like real estate company, and we were friends with him. I didn't know he was an influencer, and then I looked up and I saw he had like 600 videos on YouTube, and they got like a ton of views, and they're all around the programs and stuff he sells. And I was like, dude, I didn't know you had like 600 videos and like a bunch of followers on YouTube. He's like, yeah. And I was talking to him, and I was like, oh, is that where most of your leads comes from? He goes, well, some of them come from there. Most of our stuff comes from like paid marketing channels, outbound marketing channels, because those things are predictable. So even this guy who's an influencer in his space and has, hundreds of 600 videos, some of these things got like just so, like insane amounts of views. Yeah, he gets leads and business from that, but it doesn't create a predictable flow for him to be able to grow his business. So even at that place in his business, he still needs to do actual paid marketing, outbound marketing to get consistency. So see a personal brand as being like the cherry on top, the sprinkles on the ice cream, but seeing like good marketing, good outbounds, understanding how to run ads, see that as like the actual ice cream in your sundae. And like that personal brand is like the sprinkles on top that make it like super like beautiful. And nice.
I love that. That's so good. Let's talk about some of the positives, like some of the benefits or the pros of having a really strong personal brand, because there are a lot of benefits to it, right? So if you can like start today, be consistent with building out your brand, and the goal is long term to have an established brand, what are some of the pros that come with it?
Well, I mean, think about when you have somebody who's, say, watched all your YouTube videos. They've been following you on Instagram for however long. They've been listening to your podcast, and then now they book a meeting with your sales team, and there's a lot of trust there. That person already knows you. They like you. They trust you. They're going to do business with you. So as the audience that you do have that does come to you, that does want to buy things from you, they're gonna convert well. They're gonna spend money with you. They're gonna keep buying things from you. They're gonna stay. So you're gonna have a warm audience. Is awesome. Like it's literally the dream is to have a really warm audience. You're also just gonna have, it's like people that are gonna be sharing the love. Like they're gonna do marketing for you. They're gonna promote you. They're gonna be sharing it. They're like, so it's the ideal thing. I think it's the best. And in a dream world, like if I could literally just build a massive company just on warm network, and like it was the most effective route to grow a big company, that would be my ideal way. Because once it's built, once you have the momentum, it's like they're easy customers to land, easy customers to keep, because they already love you. They're already bought into you. So even when they buy your thing, they're not going to be questioning you as they run into difficulties along the way. Like you buy any program, any service, like you're going to run into difficulties along the way together. And when they already have that trust, it's going to be a very smooth relationship versus, we do cold outbound. Like it's a harder sell to make, and you got to do a little bit more work to keep that customer happy, but it gives you predictability. So yeah, it's a nothing beats a warm audience, period.
Yeah. So the keys I heard you mention are there's built-in trust, right? They know you, they like you, they trust you. And the second is like you also have, it's a easier conversion, right? This person knows my stuff. When I get on the call with them, it's probably a lot easier to convert because they know all my content. They've been following me for a while versus a colder audience. It is a lot more difficult because you have to build trust in the sales process in order to convert them and to keep them as a client as well. But once that is built, you actually can sustain that relationship. This is awesome keys we've shared for sure.
And I think too, there's trust in your way of thinking, right? Like, so if you're building a company, especially in the B2B realm, like we do business to business. If you're business to consumer, You're creating it's really good about like creating a customer experience, customer loyalty, getting them to like almost buy into your brand like a cult, like Apple did really well with that. When it's B2B, a lot of that is getting them to buy into your way of thinking about business, like your philosophies about business.
Yeah.
And if you have a following that already buys into your ways of thinking about business, they already say yes when you say something awesome, and they agree with like your philosophies on business, your way of thinking about business, then you also have a lot smoother relationship. Whereas, cold outreach, running Facebook ads, running anything like that, you're going to have to build trust. And you're going to have to convert them into your way of thinking about business, which is something we're incredible at, because we're like that. Outbound is our thing, but it is kind of cool when you don't have to build trust or convert them to your way of thinking about business.
Absolutely. If somebody's goal is to one day sell their company, so they want to build a company and they want to exit, what are some things that they should be thinking about with regards to building a personal brand that is either completely tied to their company versus completely separate from the company?
Yeah. And it's the Joe's Auto Repair, right? If Joe goes on a vacation, people come into the store, they go, "Where's Joe? He's on vacation. When's he going to be back?" Right? If you sell Joe's Auto Repair to Steve and they come in and goes, "Where's Joe's?" "Well, Joe left, but I'm Steve." "Why is it called Joe's Auto Repair?" Right? Like that would be the extreme. But we actually know a lot of people that have built their brands and they go, I don't know, like, I just want to be able to like go on a vacation. I can't go on a vacation. Everything's relying on me. Like, well, duh.
You built the business
relying on you. So I think making sure if you want to be able to take a vacation, if you want to be able to sell your company, making sure that you're building a company brand and a personal brand separately. And they can work together, very well. Like Pima.io is our company. And then, Tim is social is my social media. Cindy Makita is your social media, right? Tim and Cindy Dodd is our social media. So these are actually 4 different entities that work together, that grow together. And then if we were to, a few years down the road, exit Pima's value is not diminished by us no longer being a part of that.
Yeah.
And my personal brand, your personal brand, Tim and Cindy Dodd, the Takeover with Tim and Cindy, that value is not diminished by that. In fact, the value of these entities are actually increased as they grow together. They're synergistic, they help each other. And when like one is sold or separated, they actually don't lose value. Sometimes they gain value. Like us exiting Pima raises the value of our personal brands and vice versa.
Yeah. I think it's very important that people are aware that if your brand is very closely tied, like your personal brand is very closely tied to the company, when investors are looking at your company and say like, you're running ads or whatever it is, like you're getting all your leads from your warm audience, from your personal brand. If an investor's looking at the company, they're thinking, okay, if you leave, how are we going to acquire clients? How are we going to get new leads? It's so closely tied to your personal brand that it's actually a disservice to the company. So you have to be very aware of that, right? Can the business run and grow without your face and without you posting content and those kind of things? Because the more that you can separate it, the more that the business can run as an entity on its own, still get leads and acquire clients and continue to scale. That's valuable to a potential investor when you're looking to exit. So very important, as you mentioned up front, it's knowing your goal. Because if you know your goal, then you can understand, should I be building a personal brand? Should it be with the company? Should it be separate? And then you can better inform and not just be like tossed to and fro with whatever's going on in culture and with social media. You have to focus and know what your goal is at the end of the day.
Yeah, I love that. We've even proven it out that we can take ads or that we're running or outreach messages that I've personally ran. We can put those underneath we can take the same ad, take somebody on our team, record that same ad, record the same sales videos, and we will produce the same or similar results.
So it's not reliant on us as the owners.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
And so make sure that if your goal is to be married to your company for the rest of your life, there are some big names in the space, that are in the entrepreneurial space, that their name is tied to that. And if you're okay with that, then do that. But I would say for most people they want to be able, and I think it's smart to be able to exit your company. So I would say make sure that you at least have the option to go one way or another. At least be Elon Musk sold PayPal. Like Elon Musk has got, one of the biggest brands in the entrepreneurial space. He is pretty closely tied to Tesla. It'd be pretty hard if he left Tesla right now, but that doesn't mean that he won't be able to have a plan down in the future to sell Tesla to somebody else, and maybe somebody else be able to run it better. Who knows? I'm not even going to get into that conversation, but he was able to exit PayPal, and PayPal is still alive and well and thriving. And
absolutely. We hope that you enjoyed this conversation around whether or not you need a personal brand to grow a business. Remember, the key of this show and of every episode is to think about what is one thing that I can take away from what I heard today and actually implement it. Take action. Our biggest goal with the Takeover is to see you win in all areas of life and business. Remember to share this show with a friend if you found value. Be sure to listen to previous episodes because we've been dishing out value week over week, month over month. And of course, if you are loving the show, make sure to leave us a rating and a review. Again, this is The Takeover with Tim and Cindy. Remember, domination is not a destination, it's a way of life. Stay winning.